Welcome, and welcome to part 4 of the Put on Your Own Oxygen Mask First. Cultivating healing and well-being through self-management is our topic tonight. And I am going to pass over to our esteemed member of the executive committee, Robert Rodriguez, who is a special education teacher from San Bernardino, California. Robert.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Rodriguez, and I'm a middle school special education teacher from the great state of California. And I'm a proud member of the NEA Executive Committee. And tonight I have the privilege of leading you all in our land acknowledgement. So we begin by acknowledging that we meet on the traditional lands served by our first people. The land where I live and occupy and teach in San Bernardino is home to the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians. The band is made up of the Yamama clan of Serrano people who have traditionally lived in the San Bernardino Mountains. The name Serrano comes from the Spanish term for Highlander, but the real name Yamava actually means the people of the pines. To share a little bit about their current and about the present, their immediate past chief of the Band of Mission Indians is James Ramos. James attended public schools in San Bernardino City Unified School District. Today, James Ramos is the first elected official in the state of California who is a Native American, and he represents San Bernardino and the 40th Assembly District in the California State Legislature. We honor America's first people and all elders, past and present and emerging, and we're called on them to learn and share what we learn about the tribal histories, cultures, and contributions that have been suppressed in the telling of the story of America. I invite everyone who is familiar of their native lands to type it in and drop it into the chat so we could see where everyone is from. And I have a photo that I will share with you all. Let's see if I can share my screen here. Oh, I can't share it, so that's okay, we'll pass on it. But in the hills of the San Bernardino, there's an arrowhead that is carved. That was actually first done by the native folk as a way for people to know where to come to for sanctuary. And today that the arrowhead is a symbol of the city of San Bernardino, and we maintain it. Now, if you follow our news, we're due to get a blizzard out here. Yes, that's correct, a blizzard in Southern California. And the snow will reach 1,000 feet elevation. So all of the San Bernardino Mountain will be covered. So thank you for allowing me to share that. And thank you for those of you that are entering into the chat where your native lands are from. And now I would like to turn it over to our wonderful presenters, Raul, Daryl, and Sarah, who will be leading us in this next webinar series. Raul and Daryl, take it away.
Okay, well, I want to first start off by asking you for your indulgence in grace. And I want everybody to show each other grace with everything going on with the weather right now. And I literally just got here 15 minutes ago. Haven't even taken off my jacket. So we're doing professional development, but we also are active working teachers. So just allow us that grace. If this doesn't go off without a glitch, it's because we're not professional development trainers. We are professional teachers. So my name is Raul Gonzalez. I'm a transitional kindergarten teacher here in Visalia, California. My mouse is not working. See what I mean? And I'm in my 22nd year of teaching. I have master's in multicultural, multilingual education, as well as a second master's in educational leadership. And I do this for NEA as a professional development trainer, and also I do it for CTA. And then we have my lovely assistant. Oh, Daryl. You're muted, Daryl, you're muted.
I apologize. Good afternoon, everyone. How you doing? I would just like to say it's a pleasure being here with you all today. Now, I'm just going to give you a little insight of myself, and I'm just going to read this. Once again, my name is Daryl Taylor. I would like to give you an overview of myself. I earned my Bachelor of Science degree in psychology with a concentration in math and finance from Jackson State University. I have earned a MAT in secondary education from Wayne State University, and I'm a former professional football player as well. I have over 30 years of teaching experience in K through 12.
For some reason, my mouse is not working correctly. So today we're going to kind of be going a little bit I want to start out with looking at your NEA leadership competency framework and look at these 7 different areas. And we're talking about strategic strategy and fiscal health, advocacy, communication, governance and leadership, leading our profession, and organizing. And I want you to notice this are over on the right, you'll see our kind of our image, if you will. And I want you to see what's at the very center, and it's that social emotional intelligence. And that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on tonight. We really want to understand, first of all, I want to validate the job that you do as educators, and also validate how difficult it's been to be an educator in the recent 2-3 years. So today, one of the things that we want to do, by the way, before I go on to that, I want to say that, leadership starts with you. NEA is here to support you in your leadership journey. Visit the website here, the link. You'll get this link so you can actually click on it and download the leadership competence framework booklet. And you can also do the online self-assessment, online courses, and it'll help you integrate your leadership development into all aspects of your work. The thing that we're going to be focusing on today is going to be really looking at the CASEL personal assessment tool and kind of what that is in terms of SEL competencies. But we're really going to be focusing on self-management tonight. And that self-management is kind of really honing in on what exactly that means and how that's going to benefit you as a personally, how it's going to benefit your students, and how you can also teach it to your colleagues. And it's all about being compassionate. It's all about understanding where everybody's coming from and really showing that grace. And I kind of started with that we really need to show each other grace. That's going to be the biggest piece tonight. If by any reason I dip off the screen, it means that the power was taken out by this huge storm coming overhead, and that Daryl's on his own. But Daryl says he got this.
No problem.
So, no problem. The other thing that, and my mouse is just not, it's being really finicky. So we're going to really kind of talk about what do we mean by self-management, and we're going to get into a little bit of the CASEL framework and really looking at there's 4 other competencies that go along with this, and how does that help me as an education professional, and really the social emotional intelligence piece, and really understanding how to practice self-management. And then what I did for you guys on the slide deck is I added about 10 different extra slides that we won't get to tonight, but that'll be there for you to peruse later. And there's even some of those, Daryl, what do you call those, Daryl? Those little rooms that you can go into?
We call those like utility rooms, but with special
so
effects added to that. And you can click on those to help we put YouTube videos in there for calming effects and other things you can do. And those
it's
are
like your own virtual getaway, kind of like Daryl's background there. It's your own virtual getaway, but you can use it for your students actually, and that'll be a resource to you guys. I want to start off by, we always joke around and say you're one student away from losing your credential some days, and it's real. I'm in the classroom every single day. Today, I almost lost my credential twice, but I made it. And it's about giving myself not only the grace for myself, but also taking the time to sometimes just taking a step back and taking a deep breath. And so this video will kind of put us into the mood here, if it'll play.
I don't want to harsh your vibe, man, but Eureka! I'm gonna be honest with you. You're really pushing my buttons now, Jimmy. You're driving me crazy, man. That's enough. You want me to write your name on the board? Hold on. Okay, Jimmy. Do you want me to call Principal Martell? That would not be bitching, would it? Okay. You know what, Jimmy? You know what? Why don't you come up and teach the class, man? Wouldn't that be awesome? What? Yeah, come on up. No, and then you know what I'm gonna do, Jimmy? I'll just sit here. How about that, Jimmy? And then we can all watch how you're being disruptive. Oh, I see. That's supposed to be me. Right. All right, Jimmy. Okay, I see that. I get it's supposed to be me. It's time to be done, Jimmy. Don't you dare, Jimmy. What is... Oh, yeah? I'm you, Jimmy. How about that, Jimmy? Huh? Oh, I'm gonna slap 5. Give me 5. Give me 5. Huh? How about that, huh? That's you, Jimmy.
So as you can see, this is what we call loss of control.
I don't want to harsh your vibe, man, but
The moment has completely taken control of this educator. And, I know that there's days that we find ourselves right at the brink of that. And so one of the quotes that I chose for this session was, almost everything will work well again if you unplug it for a few times, including you. And that's kind of what we're trying to get at. We understand you're going to have those kids. You're going to have those days where they're going to push every single button that you have. And on the day that you feel the worst, or the day that you're most stressed, or the day that you have that personal thing going on in your life, that day when you're thinking you're catching something, that's the day that the kids can feel it and smell it. And then they take you and they go after you. And you're like, why today? And then you realize, you know what? I can't take it personal. I have to understand that, this is not about me, and I have to just take a step back. So that's what we're going to try to do today, is kind of give you some techniques and really help you understand what it means to really unplug, or what it means to really take inventory of your emotions and your feelings. So, of course, when we're talking about CASEL here, I'll have Daryl talk about what exactly is the CASEL competencies and self-management.
Now, what I'm going to do tonight, I'm not going to read too much to you because I know what you do, of course, throughout the whole day. So, but I want you to take the time to read this. And we're talking about self-management, the abilities to manage one's emotion, thoughts, and behavior effectively in different situations and to achieve goals and aspirations. This includes the capacity to delay gratification, manage stress, and feel motivation, and agency to accomplish personal and collective goals. So just take, let's say, a minute to just read through this and look at the chart. But the main thing we're discussing is the self-management.
You let me know when to go, Daryl.
Okay, we can go to the next one. Now, social emotional intelligence. And once again, I'm not going to read everything to you, but we just want you to be aware of everything. You got self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. So just take, once again, a minute just to read through everything.
And let me just kind of chime in real quick and tell you that this is actually the social emotional intelligence, which is very, very similar to the CASEL, the California SCL 5 competencies. So as you look at these, this is actually the social emotional intelligence, and we're going to be focusing on the green portion, which is really the self-control piece.
You can go to the next page. Now, what is self-management? Take a look at this. And what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to give you a half a minute just to go through and just look at it. Everything is about you. The main objective is about you and managing everything within you. You go to the next page. And we're going to talk about teacher stress and students.
Teachers play a huge role in shaping children's lives, academically, socially, and emotionally. But teaching is known as one of the most stressful occupations. And this high stress is causing teachers to burn out, disengage, and become dissatisfied with their jobs, and cause more turnover than ever. Studies estimate that between 30 and 40% of teachers will leave the profession by their 5th year. Teacher stress and turnover hurts students, schools, and communities, resulting in problems such as low student achievement in math and language arts, disrupted relationships between teachers, students, and parents, and costs to the system that exceed $7.3 billion a year. So what causes teacher stress in the first place? Many teachers are reporting that job satisfaction is at an all-time low. The pressure of high-stakes testing and managing difficult students have dramatically increased the cognitive and emotional demands of teachers, leaving them feeling overwhelmed. Teachers cite they often lack effective, inclusive leadership, and they feel powerless because they don't have much say in how the school is run.
Wow. And that is so true with us and as teachers. So the main thing is just when you do all this, you got to make sure you got a team in place that you can talk to. That goes from the psychologist, the social worker, and other teachers as well. You got to be able to get the stress off of you before you go home. I mean, you try to get it off before you go home. You talk to your spouse or your significant other, or you have to have someone to talk to because it is stressful.
And just to share with you guys, the ideas are, there's a bunch of different ideas of how you handle that teacher stress, and that some of the, even for example, the complex trauma that, you know, the trauma that you're dealing with, because you're dealing with helping your students navigate trauma. And so all that stress kind of lands on your shoulders. There's been a bunch of different ways that teachers have been real ingenious and real creative about it. One of the things that I've seen in some locals here in California is that the president, the bargaining team has actually reinforced that PLC language, where they're actually spending a lot more time during the professional learning community dealing with some of the ideas around SEL or MTSS as a bigger, larger umbrella term. You know, some of the multi-tiered systems of support, and really, you know, not just doing the academics during that time, but also doing the classroom management and also the social emotional management piece for teachers. So we as teachers are able to, for lack of a better way, we're not just venting all the time, but we're actually looking for ideas on how to be able to get through the day, because sometimes because of that one or two students that are just not, their emotional, social emotional needs are not being addressed, it creates a big burden on us. So those are some of the ideas. And of course, there's communities of practice that also have been informed as well, that are also ways to do this. One of the things that, you know, it's identifying when support is needed. And what you see on the surface are some of the things that you need to take inventory of. It. If you're overly tired every day, do you feel like you don't even want to go to work and they make you go? Like the kid says, I don't want to go, but they made me. And they say, you have to go, you're the teacher. I said, I know, but I don't want to go. Sometimes feeling withdrawn or feeling isolated. I got to tell you, on a personal level, there was a point in time where during my lunchtime, I didn't want to go to the staff lounge because it was just not a very positive area also. But I just wanted to be alone because I just needed to breathe. And that was really real for me. And I knew then that I needed to, you know, find my colleagues and say, hey, you know what? I need to share this about my student or about what's going on in my classroom. And you give me some feedback on it. And we did that through our professional learning time. Lacking focus or feeling less responsible, just some of the mood swings and emotional outbursts. Now, we're talking about adults here, but we could also, you know, use this for kids as well. And so what you see on the surface is that iceberg. This is the overly tired piece, withdrawn piece. What you don't see underneath is your source of your problem. You know, it can be work issues, environmental, interpersonal, or job-related issues, but sometimes it can be your health issues. You know, you may be going through something. It could be, you know, you have an illness that you're dealing with. You have a sleep issue that's going on, or even a nutritional issue, a low iron or whatever it may be. Of course, when we were going through the pandemic, it was, the fear and the stress of getting sick or having other people in your family sick. But then there's the life issues, your relationship concerns. You can get that phone call, like my buddy always says, you get that phone call, something can happen in your life. The financial burdens, the legal problems, and even sometimes, maybe that extra glass of wine wasn't such a great idea after all, because that's the way you're feeling and that's the way the burden of the day has been. So it's really about knowing the problems, that you're going through and being able to take inventory of how you're feeling and really being able to understand, I need to take inventory of my feelings and my lack of control of those feelings. And so that's really what we're trying to do here. And one of the things that you can do, and we have a link here at the bottom of the slide deck, is really taking that personal assessment and reflection tool, which is a CASEL SEL competency tool. And it is for leaders, staff, and adults. And it's really asking you to take inventory, do that little survey and see how you come out. Because a lot of times we don't want to admit that, we're going through this battle. And instead of getting to the point where you decide that you want to leave the profession because you just can't take it anymore, sometimes it's a good thing to just kind of take a step back, unplug for just a little bit, and really take inventory of what's really going on. And so that's this tool is very, very valuable tool. Daryl, if you want to interject anything before I go on.
Yes, the biggest thing I try to do as the teacher is the organizational skill. When you look at the self-management, that's my biggest thing, organization. If you have everything in order, 9 out of 10, that's going to make your day go a little smoother than normal. But like everything, nothing goes according to plan, but you always have your organization set up just in case. If that happens, you got this. If that happens, you go to this. And that's the way I organize my day. But just keep that in mind as you go through the self-management form.
Well, here's my problem, Daryl. I haven't learned how to say no. So
Okay.
when I'm asked to do stuff by my principal, by my union, sometimes I say yes. And then I spend too much time out here in my office, and then my wife gets on my case, and then it just adds more stress to my life. So anybody know how to say no? I'll take that lesson. But on a serious note, sometimes it's a matter of realizing that your plate is already full. And as much as you want to do more for your students or for your colleagues or for your school, sometimes you got to look out for number one. And that's that. I've had to really remind myself of that and have a really honest conversation with myself and say, you know what, Raul, I know you care. I know you want these kids to do well, but you can't take that on also. There's already too much, and you can't deprive your family of your presence. And that's the big one. You can't deprive your family of being there. You have to also juggle the personal time with the work time and know when to say, no, that's it. I'm going home and I'm shutting it off because now I got to give my family their time because they also deserve their time. And so just really understanding that is really hard. But I also want to touch on a little bit about what is mental health versus emotional wellness, because I want to do my part here to try to destigmatize mental health. A lot of people don't want to talk about the stuff that's going on in their head because there's this stigma. There's this feeling that people are going to think I'm crazy. People are going to think I'm losing it. People are going to judge me. All this stuff. So I want to really I want to go through this video, and then at the back end of it, we want to spend a little time talking about exactly what it means, because this is one of the things that you need to understand before you can actually reach out and ask people outside of your own personal head to help.
Let's get started. When we strive to live a healthy life, we think mostly of losing weight, being more active, and eating healthy. While these things will contribute to our overall well-being, they might not deal with some of the issues we prefer to neglect, emotional and mental health. You might find yourself wondering why these two aspects of being human are so important if no one can really see them. But that's exactly the point. Because we keep our feelings and emotions hidden from other people, they can become toxic over time, eventually leading to mental health issues like depression, anxiety, or panic attacks. Looking after our well-being and trying to live healthier is not just about the physical. So what's the difference between mental and emotional health? Mental health is described as behaviors and functions dealing with the mind and brain. It's how we process and store information, our cognitive thinking patterns, and paying attention. These processes are fueled by various hormones and neurotransmitters and can sometimes go awry. This usually happens when there's an imbalance in these chemicals, either because of genetics and family history or because of the misuse of mind-altering substances like drugs. It's estimated that at least 1 in 5 people in the United States suffers from some kind of mental illness. This includes conditions like depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety, schizophrenia, eating disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. Mental health conditions can also be triggered and worsened by chronic stress, which can have an impact on other health conditions like high blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome, and chronic inflammatory conditions. When we don't learn how to deal with stress appropriately, we can become trapped in a never-ending loop of physical and mental health issues. Emotional health is the lesser discussed third aspect to our overall well-being, but actually plays a more significant role in our health than we think. Our emotional health is intertwined with our mental health and our ability to handle stress. If mental health is how our brains think and function, emotional health is how we express these feelings and emotions. People who are in a healthy emotional state know how to appropriately express their thoughts and feelings in certain situations and can deal better with the positive and negative emotions that they experience. Being emotionally well doesn't necessarily mean you're always happy. It just means that you can cope better with the challenges life throws at you, and most importantly, how well you're conditioned to handle stress. Mental and emotional health both need to be managed so that synergistically they can work together to help us relieve feelings of depression, anxiety, stress, anger, disappointment, and more. Think of it like the one feeding the other, and the stronger the one is, the better the other, and vice versa. If you feel that you may be suffering from a mental illness, it's best to see your healthcare provider for advice and possible treatment. You can also work on improving your emotional health by trying some of the following tips. Daily meditations and mindfulness practice. Practice positive thinking and positive affirmations. Think before you act. Look after your physical health by exercising and sleeping enough, as it can help to reduce stress. Create a balance between work and leisure activities. Connect with others. Try talking about how you feel and your daily struggles. Be aware of your emotions and feelings, what triggers them, and if they are exaggerated. Mental and emotional health are not the same thing, but they do work together and keep you balanced, happy, and stress-free. Next time you hit the gym to improve your physical health, remember that these two important aspects of your well-being should not be neglected.
So as we talk about, again, the mental and emotional piece, again, there's a way that you really need to, it's a battle of balance is really what it is. It's a battle of balance. And
Let's get started.
It's looking at the whole person and where you are. And as you look at this crosshair here, what looks like a crosshair, this X in the middle, you ideally you want to be right in the middle of this area, this zone, these zones of your physical, your mental, your emotional, your social well-being. So one of the things that, when we talk about the physical, like they mentioned in the video, we're talking about better health, improving the quality of life, eating well, better posture. I have bad posture, makes my stomach stick out. My wife's always napping me in the back and saying, that stomach, your posture. And then it causes me stress on the mental side. But I realize that it's real, it's true. I need to be better about that. But also, I get up and go walk my 7 miles on the weekend or run my 5 miles sometimes. I do it to fight off illness. I do it for weight control. I want to be stronger in my muscles and my bones, and I want to be able to live long enough to see my kids go off and get married and have children of their own so they can suffer what I've suffered with them. No, I'm just playing. We have a better life, of course. And as we look at the mental side of it, you talk about reducing that depression. And I'm going to say something right here, right now to everybody. We all get depressed. We all get anxious. It's not just the people suffering through depression. Everybody gets it at some point or another. Everybody feels because of either your kids are making you feel like you're not doing your job correctly, or your principal is not a good leader and they're breaking you down instead of building you up. Or sometimes it's just, life slaps you upside the head sometimes and you make some, for lack of a better term, a stupid mistake. And then here you are dealing with life again. I want everybody to understand that I lose sleep too. I, sometimes have a lot more stress than I want to have. I have a hard time relaxing. It's what I consider my mental health sometimes. It's not at its optimal. So I try to do those things, my daily walks. I try to do those daily disconnecting where I make sure that I'm not gonna touch my work. I'm gonna unplug and watch a movie. And sometimes I watch just the silly shows that have nothing to do with building any kind of brain cells. It's just to veg out, or what you want to call it, just couch potato mode. But then again, we have as a tie to that, we have the emotional piece, the emotional health, and that's increasing those feelings of happiness and those feelings of resiliency. That positive mood and affect, increasing your self-worth. I got to tell you, I dealt with a colleague yesterday, and she's a great teacher, and she has a very lots of insight in terms of understanding where her kids are coming from. And when I say that, I mean where they come from in terms of their neighborhood, their socioeconomic background, and some of the things that make kids different, some of the cultural proficiency piece. She's very, very keen on that. But our leader, our leader, if you will, our principal, doesn't always see value in having those conversations with her kids. When she has those conversations about life and about resiliency and about just being stronger. And yesterday I spent about 30 minutes of my day during most of my lunch, and then some time afterwards, really validating her, because her principal, my principal, our principal, had told her that she wasn't very good at doing the teaching piece. And I was so mad and I was upset, because it's more than just teaching academics that are going to help, that's going to help our kids grow. It's about teaching them about all the stuff that we're talking about now, how to interact socially, how to be better physically, how to be better mentally, emotionally, how to be less quick to anger, less, quick to sadness, less, increasing your feelings of resiliency and that drive and that commitment and that never say die attitude. It's about that whole child. And so when we talk about the whole person here, we're talking about the whole adult. You can't live in one zone. You have to really do your best to balance. But you ever see those balances that have the little water bubble in the middle, and you try to balance it when you're putting up furniture or whatever? This little crosshair, imagine your life is that bubble, and it goes just like my cursor is doing. It moves around. And we don't live here. We don't ever live here in one spot. And it's that never ending goal of trying to be in the middle. But it's kind of like one of those fair games that that they're going to take your money anyways, but you're still going to play because it's for entertainment value. We're going to spend our life with our little water bubble rolling between social, physical, mental, and emotional. And until you realize that, then you'll be able to be easier on yourself. You'll realize that, guess what? There's going to be days that are going to be bad days. And like, for example, I've already told myself that, no matter what happens on Friday, the following day is Saturday. And I live with that the whole day. It's about, exactly, Jennifer said, it's about that self-compassion. But it's also about being able to live within this. So this is a real valuable image here. One of the pieces that I really want to encourage you guys to do, and I think is one of the most valuable pieces, is the social component of it. The lower left-hand area here, where we're talking about that social integration, of talking about, if you don't have friends, find friends, meet friends. They don't have to even be friends. They can be colleagues that you have conversations with. I'm going to tell you right now, I've always said this about my colleagues. They're my acquaintances, but I have a couple of friends, but I have a bunch of acquaintances. Sometimes I use my acquaintances to really, just vent, to share my war stories and to get some feedback, to get some ideas. Sometimes it's just about enjoying other people's company and getting away. What I found that has done for me is that it's helped me really be able to use my school work time to do that venting. So I'm not coming home and giving my wife an earful, because as much as and by the way, my wife's also a teacher, as much as she, is willing to sit there and listen to me, I know that I'm have to sit there and listen to her. And then we've taken all this time out of our personal lives to do work stuff. So again, remember that balance about disconnecting sometimes and realizing that, hey, you can't spend all day doing work. Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, the job will never end. You will never be done. You can work every single minute of your day, every single minute of your 7-8 hour day that you're doing, and you'll never finish. There's always something else to do. So I've told myself I have to shut it off. I used to have a rule, Daryl. I told the janitor when he'd come in, the custodian, he'd come in at 5 o'clock, and I tell him, hey, you have the license to kick me out. Because now it's your space, and I'm getting into your work area. Now I'm impacting your working conditions. So he would tell me to leave. He'd say, hey, you know what, Gonzalez, you got to go, man. You ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. And so I was out the door, grab my books, grab my stuff, and he'd tell me, don't take anything with you, just go. So and he was my balance. Again, it's really, really important to do your best to live within this centerpiece here, and you're going to gravitate back and forth, and sometimes it's about equity. Sometimes you're going to need a little bit more emotional support. Sometimes you're going to need a little bit more physical support, but you're always trying to live in the middle. Sorry for going so long on that one, but I think it's very, very important. Because reflection is always good. Sorry, Daryl, I didn't give you a shot at that one, Daryl. I'm gonna go back and is there anything you want to share on that one, Daryl?
No, keep going. No, we're fine. I'll get it on the next one. We're fine. Keep going.
5 reasons to ponder and reflect. Again, it's about taking that brain break. As much as we give our kids that brain break. One of the things that I do with my students, and I have transitional kindergartners, these little guys are 4 and 5 years old. There's literally days where I sit there and I tell them we're gonna do some breaths. We take a breath and we literally sit there. Sometimes I'll make it humorous and funny. We'll do the whole, Mr. Miyagi, and we do the up and down, and we do all that. And sometimes we just have complete quiet, and we take a deep breath in and deep breath out, and that gives me and my students a little bit of a brain break. Sometimes it's the pondering and reflection time is about celebrating the successes that we've had. Sometimes it's good to say, you know what, as much as I got a bunch of stuff I still have to do, here's the stuff that I've already accomplished, and it feels good. It feels good to accomplish these things, and it validates, hey, I'm doing something right. Hey, I'm making a difference, because that's the piece that really gets us sometimes is that sometimes we don't spend the time patting ourselves on the back and saying good job. And if you're lucky, your principal doesn't come and give you a pat on the back either, and they just leave you alone. And most of the time you have your principals coming in and they're, Monday morning quarterbacking what you're doing and telling you, what if you try this, what if you try that? And then you say, yeah, you know what, come and show me, teach me. Why don't you take over the class while I watch you? And then they say, oh, no, I got to go to something else, but I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you very much. We'll see you later. It's about celebrating our victories. And sometimes it's about your personal victories, sometimes about your work victories, and sometimes it's about victories with your students. Of course, there's also the reflection piece about learning from your mistakes. And that's the hardest one, I think, that we have to really deal with. And I can tell you, I've made some serious mistakes in my life. It's just, you have to be easier on yourself, and don't, one thing I learned real early in my career and even in my life was that I didn't want to make decisions about anything when I was all emotional and when I was too emotionally invested. I wanted to take a step back, ponder, reflect, and give myself a moment, kind of that unplugging, kind of like when your computer doesn't want to work and all the windows are still open and your mouse is dragging and the cursor's not moving right. And then you say, you know what, I'm just going to turn it off and turn it back on. And then that seems to fix everything. That's kind of what we're talking about here. It's about really trying to unplug for a minute, and then getting back into the mix again. Daryl, anything you want to share?
The main thing I want to keep everyone in mind is to please celebrate your victories. That keeps you going. Even if you make a mistake, always keep those victories in mind. And that helps you. Trust me, I had a lot of victories and I had a lot of mistakes, but I keep the victories in mind. And that's also, that checks your future direction. So that's the best way. That's for me, but I want you to take a time and look at it through my lens to help you look at it through your lens. Keep those victories in mind, and I guarantee you'll feel a whole lot better.
I was gonna acknowledge Stephanie's comment in the chat. She said, in my school district, we have to teach SEL for the first 30 minutes of class in the morning, and that she loves teaching SEL. And let me tell you, we're only dealing with one portion of the SEL competency or the social emotional intelligence framework, just one, self-management. And you look at all the things that you can do to better your life, not only physically, emotionally, socially, but emotionally as well. So there's all these things that you can do. Can you imagine the power of teaching this to our students? Unfortunately, in many areas, SEL has kind of become a little bit odd. The other thing is that there's different opinions about it, but the one thing that has been kind of a theme along the way is that many people don't consider it to be academics. And I got to tell you something that one thing that I know in my life is that if I'm not mentally right to go in, I don't give my optimal performance. I'm going to be honest with you. I sit in my car some mornings and I just want to listen to the end of that song. And I just want to just kind of just go away for a little bit, just for one more moment. And then I turn off my radio. I shut off my key. I take a big, huge, deep breath, grab my lunch bag and my water bottle, and I'm in the door. Cover me, I'm going in. And that's the kind of the feeling that you get. It's so valuable to understand that if you're going through life and life is difficult, what about your kids and the stuff they're going through? We try to teach our students about rules and respect and controlling themselves, but we haven't really taken the time in many districts to teach them how to understand their own emotions, how to understand their own self-management, how to understand their own self-control. So when we're dealing with kids that are going through these emotional imbalances, emotional issues, we haven't taught them how to take a brain break or how to maybe go to the calming corner for a little while before you say something that you're going to regret or do something you're going to regret. So with my little guys who are 4 years old, I've had to teach my little guy, hey, before you whack the kid because he knocked over your little tower that you were building with the blocks, think about, maybe you take a step back and think about how you can handle it better. And it doesn't always work. These things are not always going to work, but at least you take that moment to maybe, hey, let me think about it. Let me give it some thought, because the reality is that we're going to fail some days. I came home yesterday and I told my wife, yeah, I didn't win today. Today I lost. I lost horribly today, but it's okay because I got tomorrow. If I'm blessed with another day, I'm gonna give it my best tomorrow. But I'm going in with strategy tomorrow. So guess what I did today? I came in with my bag of M&Ms. And if you want to be a superstar, you can share the M&Ms with me. And if not, then you can sit over there on the side and you can get no M&Ms. Hey, we had a better day today. And it was kind of crazy weather outside, so they didn't get to go out there. But I tell my students every single morning, today's a brand new day. And if they have a really bad day, at the end of the day, I tell them, hey, don't worry. Tomorrow's another opportunity, because tomorrow's a brand new day. And that's how we kind of deal with it. Again, we're talking about that self-management piece and really encouraging you guys to take that personal assessment and reflection assessment, that tool, because it'll really give you a lot This is just the one for self-management. There's one for social awareness or social, I'm blank here. See, relationship skills. There's one for all the different 5 competencies. You can actually do that. That link is in the chat. And it's really about taking inventory of where you're doing well, where you may be not doing so well. Not to be critical of yourself, but to really to understand that sometimes we have to kind of take a step back and look at ourselves almost through a mirror, and you know, you're too involved in the middle of it. We got about 10 minutes here. The one thing I also want to, before we start to close here, we're running out of time. It's okay to ask for help. That's the other thing. We've talked about self-management today, but we also know that the mental health issues can be real, and there can be other serious underlying issues that you may be aggravating because of the stress in your life. And I want you to know that you have resources for yourself and for your friends. So again, this is your crisis hotline, International Suicide Prevention Hotlines, the Trevor Project, RAIN, and all these different resources for you. And there's no shame in asking for help. I want to really do my best to destigmatize the fact that life is hard sometimes, guys. And we deal with the complex traumas of dealing with other kids, the kids that are coming to us, and we're dealing with their trauma. And then we're dealing with our bosses, and we're dealing with our spouses, and we're dealing with life and the bills and things not going right. And you go outside, your car didn't start because you forgot to turn off your overhead light when you were reading in the car last night, or whatever it may be. Understand that you have to be easier on yourself, because we need you. We need you to be right. And I know sometimes we're gonna fake it until we make it, but it's we know that you're giving it your best, and we know that, you know, life just gets tough sometimes, and that's okay. It's okay to not be at your optimal every single day, but it's most important that you give yourself that grace to understand that, you know what, today maybe I may not have a full win, a full victory, but tomorrow I'm going to come back and be stronger. Anything else, Daryl, you want to share before I kind of close us out here?
No, well, one other thing. We just want you to always remember, you can always ask for help, just like Raul said. And that's the biggest thing. Us as educators, it's hard because we're the ones helping the students all the time. But just keep in mind, you can always ask for help. And that's why Raul and I have our email address, and we can leave you our phone numbers. If you just want to just talk to us, we're there to help.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I don't expect you to be on your A+ game every single day, because I know that I'm not on my A+ game every single day. I'm going to give it my best, but sometimes my best might just be a C, because I'm going through a lot of stuff in my personal life, and it is what it is. And so I promise tomorrow I'll be better, but sometimes I'm going to give myself the grace to just be okay today, because I need to manage my bubble within that four quadrants and make sure that I'm not too far over from one to the other. I always like to leave my the sessions with the inspirational video, and I love Jeremy Anderson, and I wanted you to just take a minute to listen to him before we turn it back over to our host. So again, we were talking about some social emotional resources here. You can get some more resources on social SEL and student and educator mental health. So don't be afraid to go there. We also want to promote our next one. It's going to be on social awareness, and this next webinar series will be you can register for it here on this link, and it's again also part of that Put On Your Oxygen Mask First series. And I want to leave you with this before I turn it over.
That student that's got issues, ADD, that student that's dibbling, dabbling with some things that they shouldn't be, that student that comes from a broken home, a broken family, like I'm that student that has all those issues. I'm that student that drives you crazy. I'm that student that makes you say, you know what, maybe I don't come in today. Like I'm that student. I'm that student where I had struggles in schools. Like I'm that guy. My mom had me when she was 16 years old. I went through all sorts of struggles and failures, drug and alcohol abuse. My story is long. Diagnosed with ADHD. I went to 3 different schools for the 9th grade. I had a teacher in 8th grade that planted a very unfortunate seed within me. He told me and my mom, he said, your son is not high school material. Like he literally said, Jeremy is not high school material. Now I've heard of people say, okay, maybe he's not college material. I've heard of people say, maybe he's not, maybe he's not gonna go to an Ivy League or some big university. Maybe he should go to a trade school or the military, or I've heard that. But how you tell an 8th grade student they not high school material? See this book I read, it says that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So what comes out your mouth has a whole lot of power. And unfortunately, I was dealing with a teacher that maybe didn't know any better. He told me I wasn't high school material, planted a seed within me. I went to high school. And after that first year, I ended up getting kicked out. I go to another school the next year, completely fail. Just didn't really value education, didn't really value school. Next school come around. And this school here, this was a different school. Now I'm at a school with a group of people who, quite frankly, I felt like they were weird. Because they were saying stuff to me like, Jeremy, I believe in you. They were saying stuff to me like, Jeremy, we see some great inside you. They were saying stuff to me like, Jeremy, I'm so glad I got you in my class. I'm looking like, it's another Jeremy in here? What's his last name? I'm Anderson. They like, yep, you. I'm like, no way. Like, no way, you ain't get my file. They're like, yeah, I got your file right here. Like, every school I went to, there was a folder this thick that would have arrest and suspensions and incident reports. They're like, yep, you. I'm like, wow, okay, well, I put a wall up. That's what a lot of your students are doing this in your program. They put that wall up. They hear you. You're like, you can do it, Catherine. You can do it, Hector. They're like, they put a wall up because they don't know if they can trust you. But these teachers, they was weird. They was positive. They were optimistic. They kept speaking life to me. A few things started taking place. I started seeing things a little differently. I realized they didn't have to be in this position. I can't explain it to you, but I realized that some of these educators went into this field intentionally. Like some of my teachers, they had family members and loved ones who was making 3-4 times as much money as they were. And I'm like, bro, why? If your brother's an engineer and he's making 4 times as much money as you make, why would you do this? He's like, for you. I'm like, you ain't do it for the money. He's like, ain't no money in this. Here's the reality as educators. You're gonna be overworked, you're gonna be underpaid, but the value of what you do is worth it. The reality is it's gonna be rough, it's gonna be frustrating, but you're changing lives. You are changing whole generations. What happens inside the classroom, what happens inside those schools, you are the ones that are shaping our country.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and say thank you, everybody, for taking the time. You guys are there at 7 p.m. Started at 7 p.m. It's 8 p.m. now. Just about, and you're still here, sharpening your swords and learning your craft. Thank you. Thank you so much for the commitment and for the sacrifice of your time for your students to better your knowledge and your understanding. Thank you very much for having us. On behalf of Daryl, thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to Roberto.
Thank you, Raul and Daryl, for that very powerful presentation. I can't thank you enough for putting some things into this space. And I absolutely want to remind everybody the title of this webinar series, Putting Your Own Oxygen Mask First. As I'm listening to the presentation, sometimes it's a matter of telling yourself that your plate is already full. I think that was a quote from your earlier slides when you started. And then we led into some amazing resources that we have to tell ourselves. The Castle personal assessment tool, as well as even just reviewing the slide deck as a whole. I'm already saving the chat, so I've got those links for myself to go back to. Something that someone put in the chat that I wanted to lift up also, as I thought was a really good reminder, is, we say teacher, but in the NEA, we also talk about educators, and someone put in about counselors and psychologists and nurses and speech paths, and our administrators too, because when we think about the whole holistic approach to doing this work, it's going to take all of us to re-engage. Thank you, gentlemen, for all the work that you did here, and Jennifer for providing support. That concludes our webinar series for tonight, and we look forward to seeing you all at the next one. Thank you, and we'll give each other a virtual celebration wave for you guys doing such an amazing job. Good night, everyone, and I hope you all enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.